Hi, I'm Jacqueline.
And I'm Courtney, and this is Caffeinated Crimes.
Spooky adjacent edition. We're like a week early, right?
Yeah, it's like a week early, but you should be in full spooky season swing at
Yes.
this point. Um, Hopefully you've gone to a pumpkin patch or picked out your costume or watched a scary movie, ate some candy
Yes.
corn. Are you a candy corn fan?
I do like candy corn. Do you like candy corn?
I also like candy
Okay.
corn. I know it's a very controversial
It
subject.
is.
Love candy corn. Kevin hates candy corn, so I never buy candy corn.
That's
And it makes me
sad.
sad, which is probably why I love it so much because it's like I only get a little bit of it. Like I can never
Yeah.
get sick of it, you know?
Because it's like a special, like once a year treat kind of. So what I'm hearing is that we need to eat all the pumpkin and candy corn things together because
Yes.
I don't, I think Andrew likes candy corn. I'm gonna have to ask him after this. Because we don't like typically buy it.
Hmm.
I'm trying to think. I feel like it's usually something I get in like a gift basket or like a,
Yeah.
you know,
Dallas usually has it as a Halloween party, so I
yeah,
usually
like stuff
always eat
like
it
that.
then. Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know if I like go out of my way to like buy it, but like I enjoy eating it when it's there,
Hmm.
you know?
I just want like a handful sometimes.
Yeah. Also, I saw this meme the other day that was like, what if candy corn is just like a decoration and one time someone ate it and they were so embarrassed that it just became a thing to eat candy corn because it's like kind of like
Yeah.
waxy and it's like it
Yeah.
was never intended to be a food. It's just a decoration.
Yeah.
I feel like we
My
need to do a poll on
yeah.
Instagram. Are you
I'm
pro
gonna have
or
to do that pro because I was with my grandmother this weekend and she was like, I hate candy corn. It's just pure sugar. And my dad was like, yeah, that's what's good about it.
you're like, yeah, exactly. That's the point.
But yeah.
Also love seeing all the Halloween decorations everywhere. My favorite thing right now is trying to determine what my child is going to find scary and what she's going to enjoy. Because, like, she
Oh.
loves The Nightmare Before Christmas. Like, nothing in that movie scares her. Like, she loves everything about it. There's no scary parts to her. But then there's, like, the Grim Reaper at Sam's Club that she's afraid of when he's moving. Because he does like this, which I
Hmm.
know this is a video podcast and you can't see it, but it's just a very small
Like
movement. This is
wiggles
not a
his
video
shoulders.
podcast. Just as
This is
this
an
is.
audio podcast.
Yes. But yeah, like just a very small movement. And so she like acts like it all the time. And she's like, oh, this is scary. But then the other day we were there and I guess like his batteries ran out because he wasn't moving. And now he's not scary anymore. And then last night at Target, they have like a tall, like jack-o'-lantern face wearing like a
Hmm.
cape kind of thing, whatever.
Hmm.
And that was scary. But then my dad is FaceTiming her wearing the ghost face scream mask and she thinks it's hilarious. And so I'm just like
That's kind of
trying
like
to
when we were at Dollywood and she was like, those bats are scary. And then was like, I want to be a bat for
yes,
Halloween. It's
exactly.
like,
It's there's no logic. I just could not figure it
yeah.
out. There's no rhyme or reason to it. So that's my favorite game to play right now is, oh, are you going to enjoy this scary decoration or are you going to be actually scared of it? So
Yeah.
it's a good time.
Which this is a little sneak peek for our Patreon episode that's coming out
Yes.
in a week, next week on
Yes.
Halloween. But I watched Poltergeist the other night.
Oh, how was it?
It was good. It's good.
Good.
It
Good.
holds up. It's not, I feel like I remember it being scarier
Yeah.
when I was younger. I mean, it's still, I think it's really well done for being like in the 80s, but it was good.
Good. Good. I don't think we have any like news updates, anything that I've seen.
Not not really. Not that I've seen. I mean, there's the whole P. Diddy thing going on. I think everyone's
Oh
on a
God. Yeah.
deep dive, you know, controversial tinfoil hat thing.
Yes.
Which like two podcasts I listen to that come out on Thursdays, and like I always listen when they come out on Thursdays, are both doing P. Diddy like series, like releasing
Hmm.
a lot. And I listen to them back to back. So it's just like
Just
three
so much
hours of P.
information.
Diddy on only on
Oh
Thursdays.
gosh.
Just Thursdays. It's just back to back.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot to unpack there,
Yeah.
but
Probably
there are
won't get
plenty of
into
other
too much of
people
it,
that are
but
doing
yeah.
that. So you can go
Affirmative
find
Murder
them.
and First Degree are both doing those are the two I'm listening to. I'm sure so many other podcasts are doing it. Just get on TikTok for like 4 seconds and you'll see a bunch. But that's the
Yeah, I'm
really
sure
only
you
I feel
can.
like big news thing going on right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't of course there's another hurricane coming, which by the time you guys are hearing this, who
Who
knows what will
knows?
have come of that. But yeah,
Yeah.
if you guys did not see from the title of this episode, we are doing Haunted Houses Volume 4, which we have not done since 2021,
Yeah. 3
which is
years,
wild. So we did a
right?
lot of these in the first 2 years, apparently.
Yeah. So we did the first and second one almost like back to back. Like they were
Yeah.
pretty close. And then I think we did the next one around Halloween. And then we just like neglected Halloween for 3 years.
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah.
we
We're
just did
just like,
other
nope.
stuff. I know we did like Salem Witch Trials last year.
I think so. We've always done like a Halloween-ish.
Halloween. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it has been a while. So I had to
Yeah.
put into our Google Doc all the ones we had covered. So I made sure that I didn't accidentally cover one again.
Yes, because that would be something that we would do, especially at this point, what, 4.5 years into this podcast, 200 and I don't even know, coming up on 250, I think, regular episodes plus all of
Mm-hmm.
our Patreon episodes. So
Yeah, because the one I uploaded today was like 239, I think.
yeah.
So
Yeah, so we are
a
getting
lot of
close,
episodes.
but a little bit lighthearted for you. So hopefully that's
Mm-hmm.
better.
You want me to go first? I'm first in the doc, so I can go
Yep,
first.
go for it.
All right. So for my first one, my sources are the ancientraminn.co.uk, Haunted Britain, The Travel Channel, Travel Awaits, House in History, and Little House of Horrors, all of those websites. And I'm gonna have to pull up because I asked our lovely um, UK correspondent how to
Yes.
pronounce these things. So, the ancient Ram Inn was built in 1145. I was like, do I say 1145? I was like,
I was like, did
did you
you need
say
our UK correspondent
no?
to read a number?
Because you say like 2005, and so then it like, but then you say 2020, and so then in my head I was like, do I say 1145 or 11,140? We're off to a great start. I don't
We
know.
sure are.
Years are weird, okay?
I think
But it is,
11:45 is right.
I think 1145 is right
Yeah,
too,
that's what
but
I
it
would say.
this is what happens when you don't recheck your notes. So it is located in
Walton under Edge.
in the UK. Hopefully that came through well. And it's the oldest.
Don't mind us needing to reach out for help.
Yeah. So it is the oldest building in Wootton under Edge. And Wootton under Edge is a market in the Stroud district of
Gloucestershire.
Glo Gloucestershire. Does that sound right?
See, guys, we really do try.
Gloucestershire. Did that sound right?
I think almost.
Okay. In England, okay? In that place. You know, you heard her, so
Yes.
that's right. Mine is not. But anyway,
Was a
that's
great
where it's
attempt.
located. That's where it's located. Um, and some deeds in the records office say the building may be much older than 1145. So the land sits on the intersection of two ley lines, which are areas that people believe contain significantly high spiritual energy, and the lines can actually be traced back to Stonehenge, which is also believed to have a lot of spiritual energy. If you kind of know Stonehenge, it's these really old, ancient rocks, for lack of a better word. But they are known to have a lot of spiritual energy. So they have lines that are going straight to Stonehenge. So they think a lot of that activity can be coming from Stonehenge. So they think a lot of that, like Stonehenge funnels the energy to this place, and that kind of enhances the paranormal activity. The site also sits on a 5,000-year-old pagan burial ground. So the building first housed masons, enslaved people, and workers who were building the St. Mary's Church. And across the street is a stream that had to be diverted around the church's site. So it's believed that redirecting the water opened up like a dark energy portal. Apparently, this is like common with people and like paranormal and spiritual like energy, thinking like diverting water like that can kind of open up these portals. So after the masons and workers moved out of the inn, it became the home of a priest, and later it was made into an inn and public house. So in the late 1960s, John Humphreys protected the building and its story by making the inn his home. And he bought the house in 1968, and the first night said he experienced angry ghosts. After going to sleep, he claimed a demonic force grabbed his arm and dragged him out of bed and across the room. So kind of violent there.
Yeah, that's not what you want.
Yeah. He said his bed would rattle, but it stopped when he put a large wooden crucifix above his bed, and he also heard banging on the window, and that never stopped. So he originally opened it as like a bed and breakfast, especially for like ghost hunters. And some locals believed he was like a con man who kind of exaggerated or made up the activity to try and like make money for people coming here. But others believe the inn is like indeed actually haunted. And he eventually had to close like the bed and breakfast portion due to the building becoming dangerous like physically. Again, this is 19 like 60s, 70s, and this was built in 1145. So very, very old building. So eventually, John's wife and three daughters moved out, but he remained. And Humphreys has found evidence of ritual sacrifice and devil worship. He also discovered the remains of children under the staircase, and within the skeletons were like broken daggers. So he believes they were used in a sacrifice and broken to never be used again. And he did have an archaeologist examine the daggers who claimed like they were of like a great age. Like John Humphreys didn't go buy these daggers and like break them and put them in there. Like they were like, these are like old daggers.
Yeah.
But the daggers were stolen from a glass cabinet John had on display once and have never been found since. So he kind of had them on display for like people coming to the house. Somebody stole them. They've never been found. So inside the inn, one of the first rooms is the men's kitchen. And this allegedly stands on the site of the pagan burial ground. And the sound of a baby crying is often heard here. And people who go up the steep staircase here, like near here, have also been known to have been like thrown up the stairs by invisible hands, like they're kind of like pushed upwards. And a picture from June 1999 showed a mysterious white mist about the height of a human going up the stairs. So the most haunted room is the bishop's room. It's on the first floor, and a medium once opening the door was lifted off the ground and flung across the corridor. So again, very heavily energized room.
Someone's very angry.
Yes, and a ghostly cavalier has been known to materialize by the dressing table and stride purposefully to the opposite wall. Two monks have been seen like shimmering in one corner, and people have also heard the scream of a man who was allegedly murdered here by having his head thrust into fire. A phantom shepherd and his dog have also been seen near the door, and some people who've stayed the night in this room believe to have gained the attention of a incubus or succubus. So an incubus is a demon like in human form who tries to sleep with women. A succubus is like the female version who tries to sleep with men. So there's also that going on in this room. So a lot of things going on. If you're not being thrown out of it, you have someone, a demon trying to have sex with you. So
Yeah, a lot going on.
casual. So the attic is also known to be haunted. It is said there is a melancholy feeling in the air once entering the room. An innkeeper's daughter is said to have been murdered in the roof space in the early 1500s, and people who try to sleep in the bishop's room can hear, quote, something heavy being dragged across the floor above them. So, one well known legend of the ancient Ram Inn is that of a witch who was burned at the stake. So, the burning occurred in 1500 at the height of prosecutions against those who did not practice government sanctioned Christianity. And her spirit is believed to haunt the inn because she took refuge there shortly before she was captured and killed. Today, that room is called the Witch's Room, and there's also rumored to be a cat ghost, which is my favorite kind of ghost.
That's so funny. You should mention that, Courtney.
Do you have a cat ghost too?
I do have a cat ghost too.
I love a cat ghost. So they don't know if this was like the witch's cat or the 500-year-old mummified cat John found in the walls.
Oh, okay.
He's finding a lot of shit in these walls, okay?
Yeah.
The ghost of a young girl has also been seen waving to people from her window. There's also a barn on the property called the Mayflower Barn, and the barn dates back to the 18th century and is haunted by a 7-foot spectator that acts aggressively towards men but favors certain women. So, no matter where you are, someone's gonna be trying to touch and feeling on you in
Yeah,
this
sounds like
place.
it.
So the figure materializes in the barn's doorway, almost like he's protecting or guarding something inside. So John died on December 12th, 2017, at the age of 89, and since his death, his daughter Caroline now owns the inn. She has given permission to archaeologists to study its unique history, and she also regularly opens the inn for people to come visit and learn about its history. The hotel remains open to visitors, but by reservation only. It's not like you can just go there and be like, I'm gonna stay here. You kind of have to reserve it only certain days, things like that. But most are paranormal tourists who want to try and stay overnight in it. And the Ancient Ram Inn also has overnight ghost hunts. Caroline would like to eventually reopen the building as a pub or a restaurant, but the upkeep cost is extremely high, and any money she makes during her open days are spent basically keeping the building standing because it is such an old building and it's so hard for them to keep it up, basically.
Yeah, I can imagine the maintenance on that is quite extensive.
Yeah, I can imagine something always breaking. So the spirits and demons in the Ancient Ram Inn appear to remain very active, and it's still called one of Britain's most haunted houses.
Yeah, there is a lot. There's a lot happening in that inn.
A lot going on.
Well, now we're going to go to good old southern United States to the Davenport House. So my sources included ghostcitytours.com, the Davenport House Museum.org, Savannah Terrors, and U.S. Ghost Adventures. The Davenport House on Columbia Square in Savannah, Georgia, is a historical feature with an unusual ghost. The home of the home of New Englander. What the fuck? You can leave that in. The home of New Englander Isaiah Davenport was built in 1820. He became known as Savannah's master builder, but very little was recorded about him, and there are no known portraits or descriptions of him, physical descriptions. The first building he designed in Savannah was Laura's Cottage in 1808, just after he arrived to Savannah. His craftsmanship was considered brilliant, and he had a lot of notoriety in its success, and he was a perfectionist and really set the standard for Savannah architecture. So Isaiah Davenport was born in Little Compton, Rhode Island on November 3rd, 1784. He apprenticed under a carpenter in Massachusetts before moving to Savannah at the age of 24. And in 1809, the year after moving to Savannah, Isaiah met and married Sarah Rosamond Clark. And shortly after they were married, Isaiah acquired 2 enslaved workers. It's believed that one of these workers was named Nancy, because in 1812, Davenport posted a runaway advertisement in a local newspaper looking for Nancy. So Nancy got away, but he put out an ad and she was recovered and returned to him, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Also in 1821, he posted an ad offering a $100 reward for the capture of his enslaved worker named Dave, who was also recovered and returned to him. Isaiah and Sarah ended up having 10 children together, but only 6 survived childhood. Some of the first suspected ghosts of the Davenport house are the couple's 4 deceased children. In addition to building private homes, Davenport was also a contractor for the city of Savannah several times. This included restoring Savannah's historic squares and building temporary housing for displaced citizens after the Great Savannah Fire of 1820. He was also contracted by the federal government to build a Martello Tower on Tybee Island for coastal defense, and he served as city alderman from 1817 to 1822, was fire master for the wards of Greene and Columbia, and was eventually the constable for the Columbia Ward. So he was doing a lot of things in his time.
He was doing the most.
He was. On October 16th, 1827, Isaiah Davenport died from yellow fever at 43 years old. His 10th child was born a month after he died. So his wife Sarah needed money for Isaiah's death, so she turned their house into a boarding house. And a year after Isaiah's death, a newspaper advertisement listed enslaved workers Ned, Dave, Bella, and her children Jack, Jacob, Isaac, and Polly, along with 2 other children named Peggy and Nancy, for sale. So the best we can tell from the records, Sarah kept Mary and Anne and repurchased Jack, Jacob, and Isaac, Polly, Nancy, and Peggy, but records do not reveal what happened to Ned. They do show that Dave died of natural causes at 63 years old, and Isaac died of dysentery at 48 years old. So I just felt like it was important to include the names of their enslaved workers as well, because I feel like, especially in these old stories, they're often just completely overlooked. But he did have enslaved workers, and I felt it was important to say their names. So Sarah continued living at the Davenport House with her children and other boarders until 1840. At that time, she could no longer maintain the home and had to make the difficult decision to sell it, and it was sold for $9,000 in 1840 to Benjamin Baynard. The Baynard family had just moved to Savannah from Hilton Head, South Carolina, and the Davenport House remained in the Baynard family until 1955, so over 100 years. By that point, the house and neighborhood had started deteriorating, and the Davenport House was scheduled to be demolished. So a group of 7 women heard this news, and they hated to lose the Davenport House because, again, it was this like just beautiful historical house that a lot of people liked. So they started the Historic Savannah Foundation and purchased the house in 1955 as their first act in preserving Savannah's history. Later that year, they started restoring the house and turned it into their headquarters as well as a family services agency. And in 1963, the first floor was opened as a museum to the public. Every October, the museum educates visitors about the 1820 yellow fever epidemic and tells the stories of many lives that were lost during that time. So now that you have this whole entire history of the Davenport House, now let's talk about the ghosts that live there. The most famous one being a cat. So very funny that we both had ghost cats in this edition.
So funny.
So many museum visitors over the years have mentioned seeing a cat running from one room to another as if like trying to catch a mouse. Like they're like, you know how cats do when they like get super excited and like dart after something. We all know how cats act. Sometimes he's sitting in a windowsill, just kind of like watching people walk by outside. And then many sightings over the years have all described a similar looking orange and white cat. He seems to be very friendly with children, but no one really knows exactly why this ghost cat chooses to hang out at the Davenport house. I'm sure that there was a cat that lived there at some point, but there are no like records that show any specific cat. But people say it's like so real that they're like, oh, like there's an like I love the cat that lives there, and they're like, no, there's no real cat there. Like that is a ghost cat.
That's crazy.
Another common ghost seen at the house is that of a young girl. So she's often seen roaming the house and gardens. Sometimes she's also looking out the window at the people on the street, like the cat is. Some museum guests have even seen her playing outside or in the attic. Like one group saw her and like she was so real that they like had the staff everywhere looking for this lost child because they like saw her playing in the attic, and that she like separated from her group, and they eventually located her in the yard where she then disappeared. So like they're like hunting everywhere for the group that this child belongs to, and then she just vanishes. It is unknown if this little girl was one of the Davenport children who died during childhood, or if she was a child of a boarding family who died from yellow fever, because Sarah did take in a lot of boarders after Isaiah passed away, and it was during the yellow fever epidemic, so they had a lot of people who died in that house. So it's like there are a number of children who could be the ones who were haunting the Davenport house. Phantom footsteps are also often heard throughout the house, and many hear voices coming from nowhere, encounter cold spots, and will see like a hazy gray mist throughout the house as well.
Unfortunately, I don't have another cat ghost, but I wish I did.
Oh, darn.
If only, what if every story we did had a ghost cat? That would be amazing.
That would be pretty crazy.
But my next one, the sources are torbrushy.com, lylerussell.net, and the Knox News website, an article from them. So before Brushy Mountain became a prison, it was a coal mine for the state of Tennessee. After the Civil War, railroads boomed, which let Tennessee be able to start coal mining in the more remote areas. And most mining companies would take rent out of the miners' wages, and the companies opened up stores that sold like food, clothes, and other necessities. But those items were heavily inflated. So a lot of these poor miners could not afford that. So they started to pile up on debt. And usually, once their rent and debt were taken from their paychecks, there wasn't much left. However, miners did occasionally strike and get their conditions and wages improved. So, Tennessee government soon adopted the prison lease system, where they would send prisoners here to serve their sentence. So, states could not afford to build prisons that would house and feed prisoners, so some were sent here to work in the coal mines. And this was also a way to exploit the 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery but allowed, quote, involuntary servitude for criminal punishment. So, many of the Black people who escaped slavery were now finding themselves being charged on very petty crimes that weren't really crimes at all, and state officials who were hostile towards the former enslaved people would give them long sentences or life imprisonment for extremely petty crimes.
That sounds like a very familiar story.
Yeah, so that's kind of how slavery wasn't really abolished when slavery was abolished, because they just found a loophole to
Yep.
then keep doing what they were doing, basically.
Yeah.
So, again, Tennessee had prisoners being leased to the coal mines. However, there was the Coal Creek War, where citizen miners attacked the state prison and mines. So I guess like the citizen miners were like not happy that like prisoner miners were here. So they then put the guards and prisoners on trains like outward. They were like, goodbye, we're just gonna make you leave. So eventually, Tennessee could not afford to keep up a war with the coal miners, and then legislation passed to build the state's first maximum security prison, Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary. By 1896, prisoners were building an on-site railroad as well as the original wooden structure of the prison, and prisoners are still coal mining. There were numerous coal mining accidents, and medical care was poor, and many prisoners died from disease, and many died after being beaten for, quote, underperforming in the mines. And the coal mining continued into the 1920s. So, kind of, prisons usually hold like bad juju, but especially when you have this history, it's not helpful.
Yeah, definitely.
So by 1931, Brushy housed 976 men, which was 300 more than capacity. So the state then produced plans to expand the building, and they built it 4 stories high of concrete in the shape of a Greek cross. And by 1934, Brushy was also surrounded by an 18-foot stone wall. Mining continued until the 1960s. So throughout all of this, they're still forcing them to coal mine. And then in 1969, Brushy was reclassified as primarily maximum security and added 100 beds to house, quote, lesser offenders outside of the stone wall. So the new minimum security prisoners were trusted with jobs serving the community, including the Petros Voluntary Fire Department, because Brushy is located in Petros, Tennessee. Just so that makes sense. I forgot to include that. So Brushy had a big reputation for maximum security prisoners, and if like prisoners at other prisons were acting up, they got sent to Brushy. So this is like you didn't want to go to Brushy. Brushy has like a bad reputation. This is where the worst of the worst go, basically. So in 1957, D Block was built to house the worst of the inmates away from general population, and it was built on the site of the old death house, which is where the bodies of dead inmates would be kept until given back to their families or buried at the prison cemetery. So again, bad juju. And in 1972, guards went on strike demanding security improvements, and Brushy was actually closed for 4 years, which I did not know. That's crazy. And in 1976, it reopened with some improvements. And then in 1982, 7 white inmates held guards hostage at knife point. They took the guards' guns, found 4 of their black rivals, and opened fire in the cells. Yeah. So 2 of the men died, and the other 2 survived by hiding in the corner behind their mattresses.
My God.
Yeah. So, a few famous inmates include James Earl Ray, who was found guilty of murdering Martin Luther King Jr., Byron Lotax Looper, who we covered in episode 40, 200 episodes ago.
Oh my God, episode 40. Wow.
Yeah, I was like looking it up because I was like, I know we covered him. When did we cover it? Episode 40.
I definitely would not have guessed that early, but yeah,
Yeah,
I guess that's true.
crazy. And Paul Dennis Reed, who was known as the fast food killer. So, since we have not covered Paul Dennis Reed, I'll give you a little synopsis on him. Reed had killed 2 people at a Captain D's and then drove to a McDonald's and killed 3 more people. And then a month later, he killed 2 more people who worked at a Baskin Robbins. So he was, and these were all like very young people too. And kind of want to cover him because I feel like I haven't heard of him. So
No, me neither.
I
Yeah,
feel
add
like
him to the list.
adding it to the list.
Yes.
Stay tuned. But um, basically those are a few like famous inmates who were here like during that time. Also, another one that we covered, Zoo Man. I don't remember what episode that was. That was a little bit more recent than Low Tax. But he also was at Brushy for a while. Um, and Brushy officially closed in 2009 and inmates moved to another prison. It has now like reopened for tours and paranormal events, and they have a concert venue, restaurant, and distillery. And I have been there a few times, and I really do like how they've reopened it because it's like you can kind of walk through like on your own, but like they
Mm-hmm.
will also have like unofficial tour guides, but they're all either former inmates or former like correctional officers. So
Mm.
I like that they hired like former inmates to kind of let them like
Yeah,
retake on Brushy, but also hearing it from their point of view of like, you lived
definitely.
here. Like you didn't get to go home at night. Like you know what it was like.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the good stuff, the ghosts. So, a big theory on why this place is haunted is because of the great tragedy, suffering, and violence that happened here. So again, we had coal mining accidents, it's a prison, people are dying. Like it's a lot. There are many stories of prison fights resulting in death, beatings of prisoners, and even the hole, which was like a solitary confinement that was like pitch black. And like you can go when you go there, like tour it, and it is like black. Like you can't see anything when you're in there, and it's tiny. So it was known as the end of the line prison, and again has many horror stories. So it's estimated that from the early mining days to when it closed in 2009, that over 10,000 people have died on this small patch of land,
Oh my God.
which is a
Wow.
lot of people.
A lot of people.
And apparently, another paranormal belief is that spirits cannot cross over bodies of water. And Brushy is surrounded by by creeks on 3 sides. So it's kind of being like they're kind of trapped here. Like they can't go anywhere else. So one ghost is named Leroy, and he haunts the death row building. He was a prison yard bully and known to be very mean, but one day another prisoner stabbed him in the back while he was doing pull-ups and killed him. So paranormal investigators have recorded a disembodied voice saying Leroy when they were asking who was in the area. And people in this area have also complained of like mysterious scratches, and the names James and Ben have also like been recorded being heard. Another ghost is that of Jack Jett, and he was found out to be a snitch. And remember, you'd never want to be a snitch in prison. This is my one life advice to you. Do not
Yes.
be a snitch. They will find you. And they found him. The inmate he ratted on waited until he was on the phone with his mother and stabbed him 19 times in the neck.
Oh, on the phone with his
I
mother?
know, his poor
Oh,
mom who just had to like listen to all that. Oof.
oh my gosh.
So his ghost haunts the phone bank, and some prisoners would say they would see the phone receiver like float on and off the hook, like being picked up and like put back down. And investigators say they can feel like dread and cold spots near where he was attacked. The prison chapel is also known to be haunted, and multiple investigators have recorded disembodied voice saying hell, beast, and pain. Photographs here have also shown multiple orbs, and inmates claim to have seen like objects floating across the room. And there's also rumored to be a hopping ghost in the prison, like it's seen hopping. And fun fact, my niece has seen this ghost. So
Hmm.
we went to
Yeah.
Brushy, and no one was talking about spirits or ghosts or anything, because there is signs all over the prison being like, do not like investigate unless you're on a tour. I guess if they don't
Yeah.
want people to like rile stuff up.
Yeah.
And she was like, I see a ghost. It's hopping. And I said, was it a good ghost? And she said no. So
Yeah. And you guys like had not mentioned to her anything about
no.
like a hopping ghost, and she
I don't even know if
specifically
she
she brought that
knew.
up.
Yeah, like she said it was hopping. Like
Yeah.
we only asked like we didn't try to lead her, like was it
Yeah.
doing this? But we're like, what's happening? What do you mean?
Yeah.
I don't even know if she knew what a ghost was at that point. Like she's,
Yeah. I just
you
had
know
to
what I
add that
mean?
part because like the fact that she specified that it was
Yeah.
hopping before no one said anything, mentioned
And
it, whatever.
we just thought it was weird. And it wasn't until later that we found a video that mentioned a hopping ghost. So then we were like,
Yeah.
oh, this
Oh.
is a thing. Like I was like, it's hopping. Like, why are you saying that? It
Yeah.
was. So there are also quite a few paranormal tours and actually quite a bit of activity that's been documented. Like if you look up Brushy Mountain, there's like so many videos on YouTube that didn't have the time to go through, but a lot of videos of people going to Brushy Mountain. So Ryan Willas, I don't know how to pronounce your name. I'm very sorry. Is a Knoxville News Sentinel reporter and went to one of the nighttime paranormal tours. He said when they passed by James Earl Ray's cell, a paranormal reading picked up someone saying hush. And he would occasionally see like shadows out of the corner of his eyes and like, like he would like see something and look over and it'd be nothing there, like kind of just shadows. And a coworker with him also heard someone whisper like in his ear, just like whispering. Um, yeah, but if you want to go visit Brushy, it is like a very cool experience. I would recommend it. And you can also schedule a paranormal tour or an overnight stay, but it must be booked in advance. Check out their website for times and prices.
Yeah, that one is quite the haunting.
Yeah, quite the one. And when you're there, it's just like I can't imagine like people living there. It looks so run
Yeah.
down and so horrible. Like obviously prisons aren't like five-star hotels, but it is like bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, now let's travel up to Rhode Island, which is a fun little place that I've never been to, but seems like a fun place. Um, so my sources for this included the southeastlighthouse.org, a WordPress article, Fairweather Lewis, and the podcast New England Legends. So the Southeast Lighthouse stands atop Mohegan Bluff on the southeast point of Block Island in Rhode Island. It's the highest lighthouse in New England, and it was constructed at the request of a local businessman and state representative in 1874 after many shipwrecks around that shore. It was first illuminated on February 1st, 1875, and originally housed 3 lighthouse keepers and their families. It is currently an automated lighthouse maintained by the Coast Guard, like most lighthouses today. In November of 1908, one of the lighthouse keeper's wives was found dead with a broken neck at the bottom of the lighthouse stairs. They did have a very tense marriage. They were reported to have fought often. Like everyone would hear them like screaming at each other. It was pretty tough living in a lighthouse, especially during these winter months in Rhode Island. They didn't really have a whole lot of neighbors and like couldn't leave because they had to tend to these lighthouse duties. So you're just kind of like stuck there just with each other for days on end.
Yeah, it makes me think of like I can't remember what the movie's called. There's like a movie where they have to go live like on an island, like a secluded island to like take
Mm,
care of the lighthouse and like how tough it is. I'm like, yeah, I would go
yeah.
insane.
Yeah, exactly. So after his wife is found dead at the bottom of the stairs, the lighthouse keeper got the police and the doctor, and he swore that his wife threw herself down the stairs during an argument. However, he was arrested and convicted of her murder, and he went to prison and never returned to the lighthouse. However, it's said that his wife, who they call Mad Maggie, never left the lighthouse. So many keepers went on to work in the lighthouse over the years, and Mad Maggie never bothered the women and children, but she was pissed at the men, and she let them know it. So
Mm-hmm.
the women and children were always fine. It was only men.
I support
Um,
this.
right? Go ahead, Mad Maggie. So she would stomp up and down the stairs very noisily at night. She would throw food if men were like eating in what she considered to be her kitchen. She would just like throw food at them. She would also rearrange the furniture, which was apparently the source of many arguments with her husband. So she would just like rearrange these men's furniture. Um, she also enjoyed locking men up in like rooms or closets. One night, a single keeper was working at the lighthouse, and Maggie harassed him so much that he like raced outside in his underwear. And when he tried to go back inside, the door had been locked from the inside. So he was locked out and in his underwear.
That's too good.
And he did have to go inside another building and call the Coast Guard to come let him back inside the lighthouse. So this man in his underwear, they had to come let him back in. Despite many lighthouse keepers reporting these hauntings and meticulous lighthouse records, there have never been any recorded murders in the Southeast Lighthouse. And while this tale has been widely circulated, there have never been any other specific names mentioned other than Mad Maggie. So we don't have a full name, we don't have the lighthouse
Mm-hmm.
keeper's name. So this may be legend. It's not mentioned at all on like their website, which I found interesting. Like their
Yeah.
website only has like the history and like it lists like all the keepers that have ever been there. So I'm like, which one is it supposed to be? But they don't
Yeah.
list like dates or anything. But many people have reported these very specific hauntings by this Mad Maggie. So, is it legend? Is it real? You never know, but I thought it was a fun
I
one.
don't know. It is a fun story though.
Yes. So yeah, that is our volume 4 of haunted
Mm-hmm.
houses. You got quite a bit of history in this one. We had a lot of,
Mm-hmm.
interesting historical information and some little ghost stories sprinkled throughout. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Yeah, Courtney, what is your perk of the week?
So my perk of the week is that on Friday, Kevin and I decided to like go out and kind of just like go to dinner, go to a movie, have like just a little night, just the two of us, because we were
Mhm.
in September basically trying to not spend any money. And the only time we did is if we got invited out with someone else. So it wasn't like us having
Yeah.
dedicated one-on-one time. I mean, obviously we hang here around the house, but like sometimes it's nice to have like intentional time. So
Yeah.
went to dinner, went to a movie, and this movie wrecked me in the best possible way. It
Oh
was
no.
my second favorite movie I've seen of the year.
Oh, okay.
And it's a kids movie. And it was called The Wild Robot. And I
Oh, okay.
highly recommend it to everyone. It was, I mean, Kevin was like, I've not seen you cry that much in a movie in like a long time. And like
Oh
we went to
gosh.
have a drink after, and if I thought about it, I started crying again. But I don't know. It was just like, in case you don't know what it's about, it's like this robot kind of gets like it's kind of like Castaway, how Tom Hanks just ends up on the island and he's not supposed to be
Uh-huh.
there. This robot is on this island and it's just like shows up
It
and it's
sounds like
like
Wally.
kind of it's I don't really remember Wally that much, but I guess similar.
Okay.
But so he kind of ends up there and like the whole robot's purpose is to like help people with tasks and obviously
Uh-huh.
it's around animals. But then it helps this little like goose that hatches and that goose is like you're my mom now and then the robot
Oh.
is like working on raising the goose because the goose has
Uh-huh.
to like migrate for winter. So
Gotcha.
there's a lot more that happens, but it was just so good. It was just so well
Oh,
done. It was like
that sounds
funny. It
good.
was like funny in like a way where like me and Kevin both laughed. Like
Yeah.
it was so good. Even Kevin liked it. And Kevin like doesn't really watch kids movies like that, but
Yeah.
highly recommend. It was so good. I'm telling everyone I know to go watch it, but
I'll definitely have to check it out.
yeah, but very very good. Um yeah, that's my perk of the week. Jacqueline, what is your perk of the week?
So my perk of the week is that this weekend we went to the pumpkin patch. It's a little bit early in the season, so it was still 85 degrees, so that was not very
Very
fun as far
hot.
as the temperature. Um, but we went with Tiffany because we also took some like maternity pictures and the flowers and stuff like that, and then let all the kids go do all the fun pumpkin patchy things. So they went down the slides 5 million times and jumped on the little bouncy house and all that stuff. And then we got to go pick some pumpkins and just have a nice little fun fall day doing all the fall activities, and would have been nice if it was like this week's temperatures. Like this week's temperatures
Mm-hmm.
are beautiful and perfect, but it was very hot. But
Yeah.
besides that, it was a good time, and we got these little pumpkins now that we get to paint or decorate however my child
If they
chooses. I don't
don't
know.
rot from the
Yes. Well,
heat.
we have it. Yeah, right. Exactly. Um, so yeah, that was my perk of the week. Just a nice little fall day, and then spent the rest of the weekend watching football, and it's just, I mean, really the ideal fall weekend.
The perfect fall weekend.
Yeah. So even though both of my teams lost this weekend, but that's okay.
Yeah.
So it happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my perk of the week. If you guys want to tell us what movies you like, what fall activities you're doing, do you have any specific haunted houses you want us to cover in the future? We'll start
Mm-hmm.
planning a volume 5. You guys know where to find us. We are on all the places, on all the things in the show notes. You can find us there. We are also on patreon.com/caffeinated crimes, where Courtney already gave a plug and a little sneak peek of
Mm-hmm.
what our October Patreon bonus is going to be about, which comes out on Halloween. So if you want a nice spooky Halloween episode right there at your fingertips, come on over. And as low as $3 a month, you get 50, coming up on 50, somewhere around
Almost
50
50.
bonus episodes. So yeah, that's like almost a year's worth of like weekly episodes. So that's a lot.
Mm-hmm. A lot of good content over there.
Yeah.
And if you could also give us 5 stars on, I was like, what are the platforms again? Apple
What do we do?
Podcasts,
Where is this?
Spotify, anywhere that has a rating system. If you could like, subscribe, follow on YouTube, that is always also greatly appreciated. But in the meantime, go have a cup of coffee.
And don't commit a crime.